This is David Cohen. Usually I say, it is another Sunday again. Surprise, it is not. Now that the weather has changed, not the weather, the season. The season has changed. We are traveling more and over more extended periods. So in order to be safe and have content available, we pre-film whenever we can. And this is such a production, but nevertheless, I have never been live, so whether it is on a Sunday, and you see it in the Sunday, is not so relevant. Today, there are several points I want to touch. The first, I have been told repeatedly, and this is why I'm addressing this. Some people are annoyed by my Star of David. I couldn't care less. Some people tell me not to make political statements. My answer is, if you don't like it, I think that was clear. I am a photographer. I'm Jewish. I am a Zionist. I am a Jewish photographer and a Zionist, and I'm a Zionist Jewish photographer. You don't like this, you go. Because the last one I kept, comment-wise. But if you feel annoyed, you better go, because I don't want you. You will not tell me where I stand. Not. And I'd rather have no views, if all of my viewers are from this faction, than those who tell me, yeah, but the police, they attacked us. Their religion tells them to kill Jews wherever they find them, and I'm a Zionist. This is the first thing. Now I can be a little bit funnier. People tell me I can be very creepy when I'm like this. Maybe. Second thing is, no, that was an important point. I'm not going to adapt. I'm not going to please. I've never been a pleaser. Next point. Let's be sweet now. Is when we were in Vienna to visit friends on the occasion of Pesach, we went to Albertina because by the time we arrived there, just in order to find out what we could do, apart from meeting friends and before and afterwards, or even with them, we had a look at museums, expositions, whatever, and Albertina is usually a good place to go. It is one of the most important museums in terms of drawings, graphics, etc. This famous rabbit by Albrecht Dürer is one of their centerpieces. But what I found was Matthew Wong. And when you watch and go back to my previous two videos, you will see I was there with my Leica Q343, and I was there the following day with my Fujifilm X100VI. So, and that touches another point. I've been asked several times, and this is the kind of questions I like, why do I keep the Fujifilm X100VI now that I have Leica Q343 and Leica Deluxe 8? And I was asked this even before, when it was only about the Deluxe 8 and the Fujifilm X100VI, which are two totally different cameras. So, I want to show you this camera. I know you know it, but you will soon understand why I'm talking about it. When you look at it, and you find the link underneath. I have the age to remember a time when National Geographic was a fantastic window out to the world. It was something a lot of photographers, aspiring photographers, dreamers like me back then in the 70s, wanted to be at. Today I take landscape photos too, but the landscapes are different. And I love that very much. But I started my journey with my father's Leica M3. And then I continued with his Leica Flex. Now, when you look at this camera and when you feel it and when you touch it and when you use it, it is two things. It is, as many others say, yeah, it looks cheap. It doesn't look cheap. It doesn't feel cheap. It has the right amount of weight. It does have this appeal. And I referred to Sam Abel, who is and was a National Geographic photographer. You find the video underneath. This is a very special camera, not only to me, but that to a very high degree. But it is a very different and special camera, and I'm very, very happy I have it, and I will never part ways with it. That's why I went to the museum, to Albertina again. First of all, because I have to admit, and I said it back then, after the first visit to Matthew Wong, I was quite taken emotionally, and I didn't have the capacity to see the rest, so we returned the following day. But I also wanted to seize the opportunity to see how do these two cameras compare. So what I did is I didn't make a scientific or technical comparison. What I did was both cameras on A. Why? So that I and now you can see how do the cameras interpret, take, use the same light, because the light in the museum doesn't change. And I always wait until people are not passing by or through, walking through, so no shadows. And there are several differences I saw. First of all, we are talking about a 40 megapixel camera still, even though it's APS-C. But that is not so much of a difference, because that I don't really care about that. What I saw is, and we come to the more personal and emotional thing afterwards. What I saw was that photographing, and I don't say I take a shot, I make photography. So photographing with this camera is totally different from using the Leica. I start with this here. I use more the screen. I don't know why. I have no idea why. I still used in both cases RAW. So what you saw were RAW photos. And there you will see how different, and it is less the APS-C full frame, because there is not much about dynamic range or whatever. It is about color science, light science, I would say. And it is a total difference. The photos look really different. They feel different, even though both cameras give you not an idea, a representation of what I see when I'm standing there. As I said, both RAW, both in A mode, so that you see how does the camera use light in terms of what is the ISO, what is shutter speed, and aperture, because that is the difference. Not what I'm dialing in, but how does the camera react to the environment. And I have to say, um, it does a wonderful job, but it is not the camera for this. Of course, you can always say, then I need maybe 10 or 15 cameras. Blessing to Yasmina, who had to sneeze. What I want to say is, it's not about niche, that I have this and that, even though you know my mantra. Um, I would not buy this camera for museum photography, for um, exhibitions photography. But that is not my main job. That is not what I make a living on. This is not even something I do very often. So I can live very, very well with the, I wouldn't say shortcomings, with the situation I find here, because still this camera gives me a wonderful representation of what I saw there. Never forget, I got this camera originally with the intention, now we use the word, with the intention to use it as a travel camera. Why? Because my previous camera, the last in a long row, and maybe I will go into that detail too, but I doubt it. Today I will do that one of these days. I wanted to slim down, because as much as I was carried away, literally carried away with the first Canons in my life, R6 Mark II, and then I think a month or two later, the R5, and it has been a very long time that I had so many lenses in such a short period of time. I had like 5 or 6 lenses. But what did I realize? I used the Canon only for my job, which is erotic boudoir shootings. Beautiful color science, beautiful light interpretation, beautiful everything. But first of all, bulky, heavy, and with the increasing lens park, a hassle to travel. Especially since COVID, we travel very lightly. And not only because of the crime rate and the danger photographers face in several tourism spots and wherever they go, yeah, train stations, airports. But I don't want to have 2 or 3 different pieces of luggage. We have big backpacks, big enough and small enough to pass as hand luggage, and we put in Urt offers this, and many other countries. Why am I saying country? Companies. I love to use Mega Gear. So the camera is inside. It's a very modular design. The camera is inside a bag that protects it inside against whatever. I have my clothes. I never take many clothes. The most important thing in terms of clothing when I'm traveling is, of course, underwear, socks, etc. Maximum, I take a second pullover, maybe a second pullover I take, and a second pair of jeans. But that's it. I don't need more. Everything else I buy locally. Ah, yeah, and my medication, because I'm a 60-year-old wreck. So, traveling, slimming down. But what I'm doing, shooting Yasmina, also when we are traveling, in the hotel room, wherever I have the occasion, because it's not only a job. I always wanted to do that too. Don't forget, I saw my first Playboy magazine at the age of 8. That was a moment. So then I looked through my photos and I realized that even though I had a 3,000 euro 24 to 70 lens 2.8, most of my stuff I shot at something between 35 and 45, 50 sometimes. And I was like, I'm anyway sick and tired of carrying all this stuff. Already 2 shootings, I come with a separate designated backpack because of the lenses. And I said, you know what? Second biggest jump, third. Digital, mirrorless, and now I slimmed down and I tried this camera not only as my travel camera, but as my working camera. And I did some shootings, test shootings with Yasmina that turned out so well that I used them professionally, commercially. And it has this special light, even when I'm not using one of the film simulations, which I love very much, even though I don't use them or so many as many others. Um, I saw that this is actually really, really, really what I love. And I sold my gear. Now, you will say, so why did you buy the Leica Q343 in January? And I knew I would do it sooner or later, especially when the Q3 came, I knew this is going to be my next big camera, because this, as I said, was designed to be my travel camera. Okay, so the Q3 was released. I kept looking at it. Why? Because I started with Leica. I had R4, R5. I had Leica Velux. I had Leica Flex. I also used an analog Leica Flex. I owned it in mint condition. I used Deluxe 7 and 8, and the only problem of the Deluxe 7 was the Panasonic menu. I still, every time I see Yasmina's camera, I have to use it because she wants me to. I'm like, kill me. It's different topic. And then came the 43 and 2025, 100 years later. No, I'm not an event shopper. But everything fell in place, and I was like, this Leica is going to be my last big camera. I'm not, most likely not upgrading this one, because what do I want? It does have IBIS, finally. That's the only reason why even though I was interested in the X100 series, I never got it. I need IBIS. And I was like, okay, this Leica is going to be my last big camera. And then I got it in January. And by the way, it is 100 years of Leica. So why did I buy the Leica? First of all, even though this feels very, very good, it feels better than a Nikon, it feels better than a Canon. It really feels old in a good sense. Very good. Please, I return to my suggestion. Watch Sam Abel's clip. But when you hold a Leica in your hand, it is handcrafted. There is a history. And it is not some kind of made up. This is, you feel that this is different. I hold the camera differently. Of course, the usual way, but you know what I mean. Not because of the price. Yes, it is expensive. The camera was 6.7K, and with all the accessories I bought, it was 7.7 at the Leica store, plus bags and others, so 8. But because this is something like, I'm not religious, I'm atheist, yeah? But it is something very, very special. And it makes totally different photos. This and the Leica Deluxe 8 are my everyday cameras. Or when I really go somewhere where the situation is quite dangerous, in the sense of having to travel very, very lightly, and maybe in areas in certain parts of certain cities, I wouldn't like to be seen with a red dot camera. That's the reason why. I'm not going to give this away, because for me, photography is not only a job. It has become a job, but I'm so passionate about it that it is the only thing, first of all, the only red line that goes throughout my whole life. It is the only way I have to express myself artistically, to show my take on reality. And this is not a tool. This is something I love. It is not a camera, it's a she, because I appreciate and value women very, very high. I will never say my camera is male. It is female, she, my camera. Maybe because in German language, and I love the fact, and also in Latin, where it's coming from, camera is female. That's the reason why, and that's the reason why I have the Leica Q343. And if you have further questions, please send them all. I'm more than willing to discuss all of this, but I'm not going to tolerate like rude language. Yes, I answer rudely when I get rude comments. I can be very rude if you give me the opportunity. Don't get me started. I'm very friendly, but you know what rattlesnakes are. You never see them, but the moment you corner them or make them feel attacked, they bite. I bite too. Yes, that was very important to me. Now, to summarize everything, currently I have from bottom to top in terms of size and price tag the Leica Deluxe 8, a very valuable tool that is always on me, always. I have this one, and I'm still shooting commercially with this, professionally, and I have the Leica Q343. That is the youngest one, but altogether all my gear is now not older than a year because Fujifilm and Leica Deluxe 8 were released in last spring. So all of this is very recent. And Leica Q343 is certainly going to be the last, as I said before, because it already has so much potential that I will never really use, and everything it offers now will not get less with a future Q4 or 5. It is only that this camera does something better. I hope you found my explanations and thoughts uh, provocative. Provocative in the sense of provoking thought, provoking your mind. Also, the beginning, because that was really important to me, since it touches a vital aspect of my existence. Um, Tell me, talk to me, ask me. That's why I'm doing this. And that's why this channel is so different from others. I'm here, but don't attack me on these grounds or make other rude comments about cameras, like I recently answered about the GFX 100 RF. I said it's not my kind of camera, but it is a brilliant camera. And if you don't qualify for it in terms of if it doesn't fit your niche, then go, continue. But why do you have to attack the company, the model, and or the people who use it? I've never done this, and I will never do it. And these are the two things that I will not tolerate: rude language and being anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, anti-Zionist. Well, that's it. I'm looking forward to your comments, and I'm asking you to follow me, to subscribe. Just tick that bell that you get all my updates in nearly real time. and see you next time. Have a good time.